Welcome back. Let's take you to this now. The ANC leadership has a busy weekend at its National Executive Committee over the next 4 days. The meeting of the governing party's highest decision-making body started earlier today with a political overview by President Cyril Ramaphosa. The meeting will also have an input from the president of the South-West Africa People's Organization, SWAPO, and Namibian President Hage Geingob. Just like the ANC, SWAPO is also facing a decline in electoral support, scooping 57% during the 2009 elections from 87% in the 2019 polls. Let's discuss these and other political issues. We're now joined via Zoom by political analyst Sysman Motloung. Sysman, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Plenty on the ANC's plate, as I've just read, but over the weekend. But perhaps let's start with the role of SWAPO in the meeting, as well as President Geingob's visit to South Africa.
Yeah, I think what this is happening at the moment is the alliance. You'd recognize that the ANC prides itself with international solidarity in its struggle for liberation. And SWAPO is one of those leading political parties on the continent who are fighting against the apartheid regime. And I think your viewers would understand that Namibia was a colony of South Africa during the colonial era and under apartheid to some extent. And when we came to this post-apartheid dispensation, we see also Namibia enjoying that liberation from South Africa. Now, these are the two parties that are meeting together. I think it will be something to talk about the political vision for the SADC region and to understand the dynamics, the changing dynamics in terms of political expression in the given countries.
Let's talk about some of the main issues that the NEC is going to be addressing over the next 4 days. Of course, plenty of issues, including the power crisis, including Eskom as well. But I want us to talk about the alliances with SACP and COSATU, which is also expected, to take center stage during these talks. Talk to us about what we can expect on that front.
Yeah, I think at this moment we come to this meeting when SACP is talking about contesting elections alone. This is something they've been saying for many years, and it seems now they're really trying to show that they are serious or they mean what they say. And this is an aspect of a reconfigured tripartite alliance. Whether it will be some understanding to say, SACP, you can go alone, and then when you have amassed certain votes, is there a possibility of a coalition government in terms of the national elections coming? Or will they be able to persuade the SACP to remain within the alliance? And this is not necessarily a reconfigured alliance, but to still give its voice and support to the ANC heading to the national elections, as it has been the norm previously. Definitely that will be a talking point. And then we do understand nationally the power crisis is there, and issues of maybe the BRICS meeting that is coming later in the year. Would it be something that the NC discusses now, and to understand what position they will take and their deployees in government would be implementing, particularly in terms of the policy related to him? I think those are the things that they could be talking about. And then it's normal issues of service delivery. I don't know if, and I would hope to see them doing something as a political party related to the Northwest. We've seen recently that some municipalities have not spent money meant for services and infrastructure development. And when this money returns to the Treasury, what are the consequences politically for those that are political officers and officials who should be implementing this kind of projects? So I think the ANC should see this as a problem and respond to it speedily.
All right, I want us to go back a little bit to what you were talking about in terms of the energy crisis, and then we'll come back to what you've just said now about concerns in the Northwest Province, and just expand a little bit more in terms of the state of municipalities that we are currently seeing in the country and how the ANC will try and address those. Let's go back to the energy crisis. Now, we know that, of course, Electricity Minister Ramaphosa is going to be, presenting today, in fact, interventions, to address the energy crisis. Now, this is an important time for him where he has to cement, some of the things that he's seen and the decision that the ANC then would need to consider in as far as the electricity crisis is concerned. I mean, Fikile Mbalula was addressing the media earlier on saying that the president needs to run his cabinet, obviously relating to those that are performing should stay and those that are not performing should perhaps not be there.
Yeah, definitely, and I don't know who is not performing. When we would ask any ordinary South African, many of those who are ministers could be said to be unperforming or underperforming. And what the Minister of Electricity would be doing, yes, he had already addressed the public on what options are available, and we understand this is a contended policy issue, particularly on the aspect of the energy transition. How fast should we transition to renewable sources? And what is the implication of this transition in terms of energy security? I think Mr. Dr. Motloung was also talking about energy sovereignty. As much as we are a country receiving funds from Western countries for this transition, we should also exercise our own independence and options to retain certain technologies in terms of energy generation, and not only go this marketized approach, and especially when it is not reliable in terms of wind and solar. So there has to be a very good balance in terms of our energy mix. So I think this is what he will be proposing, and maybe postponing the shutdown or decommissioning of certain plants until such time that we have a base load that is reliable and we can transition speedily or in an easier manner, instead of experiencing these shocks that we are experiencing. So that is something I think he would be talking to.
Very quickly, as we wrap this conversation, just talk to us about how they would possibly address the situations that we are currently seeing in municipalities across South Africa, particularly in the metros. Of course, Fikile Mbalula mentioning the fact that they are concerned about the way in which Tshwane has been run over the past 8 years.
Yes, it's an issue of concern to say Tshwane, but ANC is complaining about a municipality that they are interested in, maybe they're not in control of. They've been wanting to return there for some time. What about municipalities that ANC is controlling? Throughout the country, we've had of certain research reports, several, that show a significant number of municipalities that are underperforming, and the Auditor General reports that shows in terms of wasteful expenditures, there is really no accountability there. And recently, like we spoke about Northwest, if there is a grant money provided for municipality to procure services and build infrastructure that is essential for the basic needs of our people, and that municipality doesn't spend on it, we don't see NC talking so much about that concern, and instead of talking about being concerned, but to really withdraw some of their people that they've deployed in these municipalities, to replace them with people who could be more competent and more accountable. Now it is really typical of politicians to see a log in somebody's eye and then to not see that they themselves are blind. So it is something that really has to be considered in terms of honest leadership. I think this is something ANC should be providing now, an honest leadership and expressing sympathy with the struggles that most of the South Africans are experiencing.
Sysman, just before I let you go, you mentioned also that obviously the BRICS matter is going to be something that the ANC will also be discussing. Fikile Mbalula saying that we are grappling with the issue of SA participating in the ICC. Of course, this also, even during former President Jacob Zuma's time, was an issue of contestation. Just talk to us about how they will likely handle this.
I understand that South Africa was in that process of withdrawing its participation. And early this year, we then see reports that South Africa has withdrawn that intention to not continue anymore participating in the IC. Whereas to what informed that change of heart, and now they have been pushed to the corner, they revert back to that position of really withdrawing from the ICC. It is a matter of, I think, integrity now. When you committed to certain principles of human rights and freedoms, and then here is a state president who is alleged to have maybe endorsed or in a way supported or turned a blind eye to children who have been kidnapped from a war-torn country into his country, and he comes here. So this is somebody we can say is involved in child trafficking, and then you as a country are going to receive them. And then what does it say? Is it something that is valuable to you? Or, as we have heard recently, there is that argument that the ICC is biased in its implementation of justice. The Western countries like America, who have been violating human rights throughout the world, they are known for this, and the ICC is silent on those going after them. So it makes sense if the ANC would say they want to withdraw South Africa from this institution that is unfair. Here is not about coming after whom and so on, but an institution itself that is biased and not pursuing the principles of justice fairly for everyone. So the ICC has to be brought under scrutiny for itself to function effectively.
All right, Sysman, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Sysman Motloung, political analyst, discussing, of course, the National Executive Committee of the ANC currently in session over the next 4 days, discussing just what is on the agenda over those next 4 days.